Welcome to my second annual animation highlights video, where I talk about the best of what animation had to offer in 2024. And there was a lot. Even though AI slop is slowly taking over Hollywood and trying to replace animators, there were still plenty of awesome animated series and movies that came out this year that were actually made by humans, so let's get started. First, we have Dungeon Meshi, still not calling it delicious in Dungeon. This anime dares ask the question, what if Tolkien-style fantasy creatures but on the Food Network? The world building is excellent. We have elves, dwarves, short people, cat girls. It's awesome. I said before that the animation isn't as wacky or deranged as other Studio Trigger anime, but it makes up for it with how amazing the food looks. Seriously, it could give Ghibli food some serious competition. There's lots of characters and all of them are interesting and compelling, with unique traits and character designs. We have Laios, the tall man who loves monsters, Marcel, an anxiety-ridden elf, Senshi, the monster cooking expert dwarf who hates magic, Chilchuk, the half-foot who has the only brain cell in the group, Izitsumi, the cat girl who is more cat than girl, Fallon, Lao's sister who got swallowed by a dragon is now a Chimera, I don't know. I forgot how to pronounce it. It's such a funny and heartwarming anime. Too bad some of the fans are extremely obnoxious though. Season 2 of the Urusei Yatsura remake. The remake has finally come to an end, adapting plenty of manga chapters. It's even better than the first, as there is a big emphasis on heartwarming moments between Ataru and Lum, like in the episode where Lum turns into a cow. Yeah, that actually happens. I couldn't make this up if I tried. The openings and endings are amazing as always, especially by My Darling. It sounds upbeat, but it has this melancholy feeling that's perfect for the end of the series. Ataru and Lum were super cute, but so were Shinobu and Inaba, the bunny dude. I wish there was more fan content of them. And funnily enough, this wasn't the only Rumiko Takahashi anime this year, but we'll get to that one much later. Hazbin Hotel. I know, it's extremely divisive online, but I really enjoyed this series and I am including it in this video whether you like it or not. I mean, you just have to admire the fact that what started as an independent animated series became so successful that it's now a full-fledged show on a major streaming service. While the plot might have been rushed because of the 8-episode curse, you should check out my video about it. What really drew me to the show is the characters and their interactions. Yeah, the overarching story and all of the lore is fascinating, but the characters, most of them, are so lovable despite being from hell. For example, we see how Lucifer, the king of hell, is just some awkward guy who likes making rubber ducks. Alistair, the creepy and charismatic radio demon, also has soft spots for people like Nifty and Rosie. Angel just gets attached to the other hotel members and gains the courage to stand up to his abuser. Even the side characters are memorable, like Carmilla, who makes weapons and acts cold but is devoted to protecting the people she loves. Also, the songs slap. Neither of the songwriters have any Broadway experience, but the songs still manage to sound like they're from Broadway regardless. Underneath the crude humor of the show lies a lot of emotional depth and heart, making it one of the best adult animated comedies in a while in my opinion. And then I ended up hyperfixating on the Helliverse. Oops. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur Season 2. What can I say? It's still awesome. It's still as fun and action-packed as Season 1, and has some compelling new characters and plotlines like Marvin aka Kid Curry and Lunella dealing with an anxiety attack in the episode Make It Don't Break It. However, I want to take a moment to talk about the banned episode The Gatekeeper. This episode made headlines for being banned, but in case you're not aware, the episode places heavy focus on Lunella's from Brooklyn, who is openly trans, and her facing discrimination from a rival team's coach, who thinks that Brooklyn shouldn't be allowed to play on the girls' team, to the point of trapping her and her team in the locker room. But luckily, Brooklyn and the gang stand up to this Karen. It got banned because Disney didn't want to offend bigots, and honestly, that makes me sad. This episode is one that kids need now more than ever, but Disney were cowards. Rock, Paper, Scissors is a Nicktoon I didn't expect to like, and I didn't watch it at first, but the show actually has a lot of chaotic energy and charm to it. It's almost like a 90s Nicktoon with how wacky the plots get. Seriously, there is a plot involving the so-called birthday police, Paper digging himself into a massive hole to impress his crush, and a shark freeloading off of the trio. And the funny part is that the show was created by sitcom writers, yet it still feels like a cartoon first and a sitcom second. Unlike other cartoons made by sitcom writers, you just couldn't do stuff like this in live action. Plus, I like the usage of mixed media on the show. It's kind of like Gumball in that regard. I think the voice acting really carries the show. Rock and Paper's voice actors were both in Jellystone, while Scissors is voiced by the same guy as Rocco and Mr. Crocker. It's not a masterpiece, but it doesn't have to be. Just a fun and silly little Nicktoon. Plus, I have to give credit for it being an original property and not based on a pre-existing franchise like most of Nickelodeon's lineup, and it's been successful enough to be renewed for a second season, so kudos to the crew. Jellystone Season 3. After a 2-year hiatus, Jellystone finally came back with a new season, yay! And this season is the best yet. The show is really improving in quality. The writing is better, the jokes are funnier, and there are tons of crazy appearances from classic Hanna-Barbera characters. There is an entire episode devoted to Space Ghost. Dick Dastardly and Muttley appear in an episode. There is an episode with the Jetsons. Even the Scooby-Doo gang appear in one episode. I really like the episode Collection Protection because of all of the anime references. I know some people don't really like the episodes with Augie, Yaki, and Shag in them, but there are way fewer episodes centering the trio than in previous seasons, and the ones they do appear in are actually quite good and give focus to the other characters as well. Invincible Season 2. I had this in the honorable mentions for last year's highlights video because the season didn't air completely last year, but now that the season has wrapped up, I can feature it on this list. I don't have that much to say about it. Is it as good as Season 1? Definitely not, but I still think Season 2 is still good in its own right, focusing a lot on character development and interpersonal relationships. My favorite part of any show is the characters, so I appreciate more character development. Plus, the end of the season hints towards Omni-Man's reformation, and I will definitely be looking forward to how they handle that. X-Men 97, a continuation of the original X-Men animated series from the 90s. 2 superhero cartoons in a row, wow. I didn't have enough time to watch the original X-Men before this show came out, so I went in completely blind, but I found that the show was quite enjoyable regardless. For one thing, I liked the art direction and how they made it look almost exactly like the 90s show, and how they got most of the original voice cast back. X-Men 97 grew with its audience, telling a mature story. There are some little references for fans of the original series, but X-Men 97 stands on its own as a great story and continuation without relying too much on nostalgia bait. # Magneto did nothing wrong. Murder Drones. The indie animated series has finally come to an end, with episodes 7 and 8 coming out this year. After watching Digital Circus, I became interested in Murder Drones since they are both made by Glitch Productions, so in preparation for the final episodes, I binged the series. I'm gonna be honest, Murder Drones is a very confusing show that you don't know what's going on half the time, and it only makes sense upon rewatching the episodes, but I do like it. Episode 7 was the best of the series, with lots of horror, major plot twists, and deeply moving scenes. Episode 8 is quite divisive among the fandom, with some feeling that it's not that satisfactory of a finale due to it feeling rushed. It's times like this where I wonder why the series has to be only 8 episodes, since it's an independent series and the creators are the ones calling the shots, not any executives, but for what it's worth, I did enjoy episode 8. I mean, it has Nightcore in it, which automatically makes it awesome. Cringe is dead. Smiling Friends Season 2 is just as great as the first season, if not better. Unlike other adult cartoons, Smiling Friends takes full advantage of the fact that it's a cartoon, incorporating plenty of visual gags and blending styles together. For example, Wimbley is made to resemble a low-poly 3D video game character. There was the whole episode with the live-action president, and they even got Doug Walker to make a cameo in the series. My personal favorite line in the season has to be,
"Dude, check the news. It doesn't matter what channel."
It's a reference to this.
Lyle, turn on the TV! They hit the Pentagon! They hit the fucking Pentagon!
I can't get up there. Fuck!
Turn on TV, it doesn't matter what channel.
Can't wait for Season 3. Sound Euphonium Season 3. For those who don't know, Sound Euphonium is an anime series about a high school orchestra band, and it mostly follows Kumiko, who plays the euphonium. Season 3 is the final season, bringing Kumiko's story to an end. Kyoto Animation, who makes the series, suffered a devastating arson attack back in 2019, but Season 3 of Sound Euphonium proves that they haven't lost their magic and are still capable of making beautiful animation. Seriously, this looks gorgeous. And of course, the story is very compelling as well. Kumiko is now the president of the band and has a sort of rival in new student Mayu, who not only plays the euphonium, but plays it better than Kumiko. And the thing about Mayu that makes her interesting is that she knows she's talented, but isn't conceited about it at all and doesn't want to disrupt the band. I know that some people in the fandom hate her because she got this solely and Kumiko didn't, but honestly, Mayu deserved it. The one problem I have this season is that there aren't as many music performance scenes and focuses more on club politics and drama, but the strong characterization and beautiful animation make up for it. Thank you, KyoAni. Bluey the Sign. The first half-hour episode of the series and quite possibly the best Bluey episode. The episode masterfully balances two plots. The healers having to move and Rad and Frisky's wedding, and in fact they intersect with and parallel each other. The wedding is almost caught up because Rad wants to move away from Brisbane and Frisky doesn't, just like how the healers had to move away because of Bandit's job, but Bluey and Bingo don't want to. This episode is so emotional because you know what? Neither Chili nor Bandit want to move either. Chili even recalls how Bluey took her first steps in that house. Luckily, Rad and Frisky make up and get married, and the healers don't move after all, and we get an amazing scene of Bandit ripping out the for sale sign while Lazarus Drug by Meg Washington plays in the background. I really love the arc words in the episode. We'll see. There's no way to tell if something will be bad luck. It could be good luck. All you have to do is wait and see. This comes from a real Chinese parable. The Amazing Digital Circus, the indie series that took the world by storm, released 3 episodes this year, all of which are spectacular. First, we have Candy Carrier Chaos, an episode that explores Pomni's insecurities about potentially being abandoned and befriending an NPC named Gummigoo who soon meets his tragic demise. Next, we have The Mystery of Mildenhall Manor, the haunted house episode that pays homage to Luigi's Mansion and explores Kinger's character and how he actually has common sense when he's in the dark, which explains why he's in his pillow fort all the time. And the newest episode, Fast Food Masquerade, dives deep into Gangle's character and her big personality change when she puts on a different mask. The episode was very funny but also relatable, with Gangle trying to change herself and failing at it and thinking that she is a burden to everyone. And surprisingly enough, Gummigoo returns in this episode, but he doesn't have any of his previous memories. I love how Pomni is basically everyone's therapist at this point, listening to them talk about the problems while neglecting to solve her own. The Fairly Odd Parents: A New Wish. I already made a video on the show around the time it premiered, so you can watch that to see my early thoughts. A New Wish started off good, but soon it became great. It's one of those reboots that actually improves upon the original. For instance, there's no boomer humor wife bad jokes. Instead, Cosmo and Wanda genuinely love each other. And the vibe is generally not as, I'm sorry to say this, mean-spirited as the original could be at times. Hazel stands out as a likable and eccentric protagonist who isn't a carbon copy of Timmy, contrary to popular belief. The Fairly Odd Parents and most Nicktoons of its time are known for being gag-driven instead of character-driven. And while A New Wish still has lots of fun gags, it's also focused quite a bit on character development, particularly in regards to Dev, Hazel's rival, who is way more than just a typical rich jerk, instead being a lonely, neglected kid who destroys his own relationships. And I can't talk about A New Wish without talking about Perry. Now this is how you take a somewhat divisive character and get the entire fandom to love them, and single-handedly make the show more popular. My Adventures with Superman Season 2. The popular DC animated series returned for a Season 2 this year, and it lives up to the first season, continuing to have a strong story and characters. Notably, the season introduces Clark's cousin, Kara Zor-El, who would later become Supergirl. She was redesigned to resemble Android 18 from Dragon Ball Z, which makes sense because they both have very similar character arcs. Like Android 18, Kara was brainwashed into being evil, and later joined the side of the heroes while also falling in love with a human. Yeah, they're really showing their anime influence this season, with episode titles referencing Fullmetal Alchemist and Gurren Lagann. I think that's how you say it. I still haven't watched it. RIP. It was inevitable that Kara was going to become good, but I'm still really glad that it happened, and she and Jimmy are too cute together. Big City Greens the movie, Spacecation. The series now has its own TV movie that takes the green to new heights, literally. The animation has seen a massive improvement, which makes sense because it's a movie. It's so expressive and lively, and the space backdrops are beautiful. Obviously, the movie has higher stakes than the TV show, with a greedy tech CEO as the villain, and a major father-son conflict between Cricket and Bill. The movie does have sad moments, but it avoids getting too dark and edgy, and for the most part, retains the hilarity and heart of the series. I was re-listening to the soundtrack while writing the script for this section of the video, and wow, I forgot how great they were. They didn't have to go so hard on these songs, but they did, and they are legit better than the Wish and Moana 2 soundtracks combined. I can't believe Cricket went through trauma. Kif, you're next. Inside Out 2. I already made a video on this, so you can check that out. So I will keep this section brief, but I still maintain that Inside Out 2 is the best Pixar sequel since Toy Story 3, and the big hit that Pixar needed. The new emotions are great, especially anxiety. The older emotions get a lot of development, and the movie deals with all the complexities and issues that come with being a teenager, such as peer pressure and trying to fit in. And I still maintain that Riley's anxiety attack was the best emotional scene in the movie, and probably one of the best Pixar scenes of all time. Thankfully, I haven't seen any stupid memes making fun of the scene, so yeah. Inside Out 2 is amazing and justifies its existence, but I really do think that Pixar should focus more on making original stories. Ultraman Rising. So this is an animated movie based on the long-running Ultraman franchise, a tokusatsu series about an alien race of superheroes fighting kaiju. I wasn't sure whether I should watch this movie at first because the Ultraman lore is so deep, and I was worried that I would be confused, but as it turns out, Ultraman Rising is completely accessible to newcomers. The movie is about a professional baseball player named Ken Sato who takes up the mantle of becoming Ultraman, since his dad was the previous Ultraman, and he feels underappreciated and feels like he never wanted to be Ultraman. Soon he finds a baby kaiju and starts to raise her, eventually growing to care about her. This entire plot was very heartwarming and emotional. I certainly didn't expect this from a movie based on a tokusatsu show, but it was more than welcome. Plus, the animation was beautiful. So yeah, this was an unexpected surprise. It's really good, you should watch it. Look Back, an anime movie based on the one-shot manga of the same name written by Tatsuki Fujimoto, who also writes Chainsaw Man. It's about two middle school girls named Fujino and Kiyomoto who have a shared love for drawing manga and create multiple manga one-shots together. However, one day, Kiyomoto is sadly killed in a mass murder. The movie just hits you in the feels, and while it is very sad, it also manages to be heartwarming. Like when Fujino finds inspiration to keep drawing when she finds out that despite her and Kiyomoto going their separate ways, Kiyomoto never stopped looking up to her. Her stories made her happy, and that's enough for her to keep drawing. This movie celebrates art and artists and has great messages for all of us. First is, you can't change the past, you can only learn from it. And the second is, you have to keep drawing. Find something that motivates you and keep drawing. Lord knows that the world needs more real artists that put passion to their art when AI slop is taking over the world. And another thing, this movie is the only one that Studio Durian has animated so far, as they are a relatively recent studio founded in 2017, but for their first outing, it looks beautiful, and it successfully translates Tatsuki Fujimoto's distinctive art style into animation. I really hope that they animate more movies and TV series soon. Batman Caped Crusader. First, I have to give props to Amazon Prime for rescuing the series after Warner Brothers unceremoniously dropped it. I think it really fits on Prime because they specialize in adult animation. And Batman K Crusader is exactly that. Taking influence from film noir and being dark and gritty, much like Christopher Nolan's take on Batman. The animation and character designs look exactly like Batman, the animated series. It's like it never left. It helps that Bruce Timm developed this series. The series really dives deep into the psyches of Batman's rogues gallery. And I know that some of the changes they made to the villains are controversial, such as the Penguin being a woman, but honestly, I don't really mind. I also really like how all of the episode titles are literary references. I think that is very classy. Kimi ni Todoke Season 3. For those who don't know, Kimi ni Todoke is a popular romantic anime about a shy girl named Saoko Kuronuma, who was ostracized by her classmates because she looks like Sadako from The Ring. Luckily for Saoko, the popular guy Kazuhaya becomes friends with her. The two develop feelings for each other, and because it's a rom-com, there's a lot of miscommunication, but I still think it is a very sweet, funny, and heartwarming series. After 13 years, it unexpectedly came back this year with Season 3, which focuses on Sawako and Kazuhaya as a couple. Interestingly, there are only five episodes in the season, and all are over 1 hour long. It's yet another victim of the short season curse. Watch my video on that. But the fact that they have longer runtimes means that there is more time to explore the characters and their relationships more in depth, and this really pays off. Another thing, the animation didn't change at all. In fact, it looks exactly like how it did in 2009, which I love. I highly recommend Kimi ni Todoke if you like wholesome rom-coms. Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Last year, we got Mutant Mayhem, a movie kicking off the newest generation of TMNT. And Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is this generation's TV show, presented as a series of in-universe comics sketched by Leo. The series is animated in 2D, which I think is a good call because you just can't recreate the movie's painted CGI on a TV budget. The Bad Guys TV specials tried to do that, and it ended up looking cheap. The 2D animation is great, really leaning into the whole sketchbook aesthetic and having lots of dynamic poses. The first half of the series separates the turtles, giving them time to stand out on their own and have their own adventures. But don't worry, the second half of the series has them fighting as a team against a gang of aquatic mutants. I wouldn't say it's as good as the movie, but it still retains the best elements of it, and if you like the movie, give the show a watch. Transformers 1. I'm really sad that this bombed at the box office. And it's all the marketing's fault because they made the movie look stupid. You know you screwed up when a movie based on a very popular franchise bombs. But don't be fooled by the first trailer. It's a surprisingly really great origin story about Optimus Prime, or as he is known in the movie, Orion Pax, and Megatron, or as he is known in this movie, D16. Believe it or not, once upon a time, they were the best of friends, and they couldn't transform, and it's because their leader, Sentinel Prime, took away the cogs that make them transform. Not only that, but he secretly betrayed Cybertron. Wow, just wow. And then Orion and D16 argue over whether they should execute Sentinel or not, and then D16 kills both Orion and Sentinel. D16 becomes Megatron, Orion is revived as Optimus Prime, and now they're enemies. For the first time in my life, I finally understood Megatron, and I sympathize with him for the majority of the movie. This movie makes me very sad every time I think about it. Not just because of how it flopped, but because of how Megatron and Optimus were once best friends and now they're mortal enemies. This truly was the greatest doomed yaoi anime of all time. Hashtag Megatron did nothing wrong. The Wild Robot. Another really sad robot movie released around the same time as Transformers 1, and another really sad movie about becoming an adoptive parent like Ultraman Rising, although the story is completely different. The movie is just beautiful, using stylized CGI to look like a painting, and the story is beautiful as well. Featuring a classic story about a robot learning what it means to be human and to love nature, as well as becoming a mother to a baby goose. The story is very simple, but done excellently, and is very emotional. I loved how the animals on the island went from hating Roz to loving her unconditionally after she risked everything to save them during a snowstorm. Fink the Fox was Pedro Pascal's first voice acting role, and he ate. Seriously, what is it with Pedro Pascal and unexpectedly becoming a father? This movie did gangbusters at the box office, which is great, and shows us that the children yearn for compelling original stories, and a sequel is already in development. One of the best DreamWorks movies ever made. Dan Da Dan, an eccentric and surreal anime series based on the manga of the same name by Yukinobu Tatsu, and easily the best new anime of the year. Dan Da Dan revolves around two teenagers, Momo and Ken Takakura, also known as Okarun, who discover that they have supernatural powers and fight aliens and yokai. A bunch of crazy stuff happens, like Okarun getting his balls and dick taken away. The series as a whole is really crazy. It's almost like a modern Fooly Cooly, except Dan Da Dan makes more sense than Fooly Cooly does. And besides all that, it's also a rom-com because it focuses on the developing romance between Momo and Okarun, which is definitely woven into the plot rather than overtaking it, because this isn't a supernatural thriller first and foremost. They're still really cute to watch. And also, the animation is very impressive. Seriously, I think Science Saru could be the next Studio Trigger, and the opening song slaps. The Ranma 1/2 reboot. See, I told you that Urusei Yatsura wasn't the only Rumiko Takahashi anime this year. The classic martial arts gender-bending romantic comedy Ranma 1/2 has returned with a new anime, still telling the same story but is more faithful to the manga, since the original Ranma didn't completely adapt the manga and had quite a lot of filler episodes. The new Ranma has just the same amount of charm as the old series, with lots of hilarity derived from Ranma, Genma, and Ryoga's transformations, as well as lots of romantic drama. The series isn't a love triangle, it's a love dodecahedron. We all know that Ranma and Akane fight all the time, but deep down, they really do love each other, and have some really cute and sweet moments. Surprisingly, they got the original Japanese voice cast back for the reboot, but for the dub, they moved the recording from Vancouver to Los Angeles, and honestly, while I do like the cheesy, over-the-top charm of the 80s dub, the new LA actors bring their own takes on the characters to the table, and I really appreciate that. Plus, they pronounced some of the names correctly this time, like Nabiki instead of Nabiki, and Kasumi instead of Kasumi. Hell of a Boss. Well, I already talked about Hazbin Hotel, so it's only fair that I talk about Hell of a Boss too, right? As of the time of me recording this, 4 new episodes of this series released this year, with the season 2 finale, Sinsmas, set to premiere on an unknown date. Edit, I am recording this part on December 20, and now we found out that Sinsmas is going to air on December 21st as the time of me recording this, so yeah. However, I just want to talk about one episode, my personal favorite, Ghost Fuckers, which sees Blitz trying to be like a TV celebrity called Bethany Ghostfucker and hunt ghosts so he can fuck them. But he and Millie are tormented by an infestor demon known as Rolando, voiced by John Waters. This episode really puts Blitz through the ringer. Rolando preys on his insecurities and makes him believe that all he does is make everyone's lives worse. And I mean, the part where a vision of his mom fades away, that was horrifying. Then Rolando tortures Blitz Clockwork Orange style and forces him to revisit some of his worst memories. Rolando only appears for this episode, but he's genuinely menacing. And you know who raises Blitz's spirits? Millie, who tells him that he made her realize that she could be more than a simple country bumpkin. This episode gives a lot of focus to Millie, which is very much deserved because she doesn't get that much focus. I could go on, but we'd be here all day, so to sum it up, it's peak. Invincible Fight Girl. Not to be confused with Invincible. This is another show that was going to be on Cartoon Network, but was moved to Adult Swim despite not being that adult. But honestly, it was for the best because Adult Swim is thriving right now and Cartoon Network is basically on life support at this point. The series takes place in a world where you are either an accountant or a wrestler. The main character, Andy, was born to an accountant family but strives to be a wrestler and adopts the alias of Fight Girl. It's a lot like Okakeo, taking place in a world full of fighters and being inspired by anime. And like Mucha Lucha, where everyone is a wrestler. If you like those, you'll probably like this show as well. The animation is great, the plot and lore are interesting, and the characters are charming. Even Craig, the greedy con artist, will likely grow on you after a while. It's apparently been getting good ratings, so moving it to Adult Swim really was the right choice. Memoir of a Snail, an adult stop-motion animated movie from the same person who made Mary and Max, which I still really need to watch. I heard how great this movie is and how depressing it was, but I underestimated how depressing this movie was because it really is. Gracie and her twin brother Gilbert have had horrible lives, and none of it is sugar-coated or dumbed down. Wonder why the movie is called Memoir of a Snail? Because Gracie is obsessed with snails to the point of hoarding snail-related items, thinking that it'll make her feel better, and eventually getting in trouble for shoplifting said snail items. The movie is disgusting. It's uncomfortable in many scenes. It's scary. It's sad. It's very close to home. But most of all, it's real. Life isn't always pretty for people, and this movie perfectly captures that. The animation is beautiful, and honestly, I haven't found a single stop-motion movie that isn't beautiful to some degree. Please watch this. It's an emotional roller coaster that, despite everything, still manages to instill hope in the audience. Arcane Season 2, the second and final season of the popular animated series based on League of Legends, which I still have not played and never will play. Yay! They ended it after 2 seasons because they're interested in making more series based on League of Legends, and considering how much of a masterpiece Arcane was, I'm honestly down for more series set in the same universe. I know Arcane Season 2, especially the third act, was a bit divisive among the critics in the fandom because of the somewhat rushed pacing. Is it as good as Season 1? No. But I still think Arcane Season 2 was good in its own right, and thus worthy of being in the video. For all of the season's flaws, I think we can all agree that Episode 7, Pretend Like It's the First Time, is just incredible. It's basically this quote from Everything Everywhere All at Once in 41 minutes. Thanks to this episode, I truly have become time bomb pilled. Absolute cinema. P.S. I don't think Jinx actually died at the end of the show. Maybe she'll come back when they make another League of Legends show, who knows? Carl the Collector. I already made a video on this show, so I'll keep this section brief, but Carl the Collector is a very cute, sweet, kind-hearted, and relaxing show that is a legitimately great representation of autism. As I said in my video, Carl is the character first and autistic second. He's allowed to be flawed and learn from his mistake, and he has a loving family and lots of friends who treat him as an equal and never talk down to him. Sometimes they don't get along, but that's inevitable. They are kids, and kids don't get along sometimes. That's a part of life. And the show emphasizes communication and peaceful conflict resolution. The show itself doesn't talk down to children either, as its moral messages are subtle and not outright spoon-fed to the audience. I think it is the best PBS Kids show as of right now, and I cannot wait for more episodes to come out. Gentry Chow vs. the Underworld, an animated Netflix series about a teenage girl named Gentry with fire powers who fights ghosts and demons. It's a fantastic series with awesome animation courtesy of Titmouse, a banger soundtrack, and lots of Chinese mythology. You can actually learn a lot about Chinese mythology from the show. For instance, Gentry's sidekick, Ed, is a Chinese vampire. The show is like a modern version of American Dragon Jake Long, in that it's about a Chinese-American teenager who has to wake up, go to school, and save the world. It's also a lot like a Dan to Dan due to focusing a lot on East Asian ghosts and spirits. Even the 2 opening songs are kinda similar visually. Plus, Okaroon and Michael have the same voice actor. I will say this though, I much preferred Gentry with Kit than with Michael. Kit deserved better. His arc was compelling and he had a lot of chemistry with Gentry. Too bad he became an entitled incel later on. Flow, an animated movie from Latvia that has no dialogue whatsoever. Instead, only using sounds made by real animals. Seriously, that is just awesome and shows how dedicated the filmmakers were to this movie. The animation is beautiful, of course. It's another stylized CGI movie that looks like a moving painting, and it was done entirely in the Blender software too. It tells a simple story about a cat who loses its home in a flood and has to team up with other animals. And it's done without any dialogue, letting the animation and music tell the story. I wouldn't necessarily say it's an adult movie, as there is nothing inappropriate in it, but I think it's a movie that can be enjoyed by everyone of all ages. I know that a small number of people were disappointed that the Wild Robot had talking in it, so if you want a great movie with no talking, this is it. And now for some honorable mentions. Robot Dreams. Believe me, I wanted to make an entire section devoted to this movie because it is amazing and very heartbreaking, but it is technically from 2023, and it came to the US in 2024, so it'll go to the honorable mentions. And 3 films that were technically first released last year but came to the US this year: Chicken for Linda, Mars Express, and Kensuke's Kingdom. I haven't watched these 3 yet, but I will next year in time for the Annie Awards, because these are all nominated for Best Independent Feature along with Flow, Look Back, and Memoir of a Snail. They all look good, but I am most interested in Chicken for Linda. I like the art style. The fact that every character is only one solid color reminds me of Making Fiends. Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul has only released in the UK as of now, and the US isn't getting it until January 3rd, 2025. So I won't be able to judge the movie until then, but come on, it's Wallace and Gromit. It's obviously going to be good. Spy Family: Code White. Another movie that technically first released in 2023 but came to the United States in 2024. It's a very stressful movie to watch with lots of peril and high stakes, but it's also super fun and ridiculous in some scenes. The poop god scene was so weird but in a good way. The animators went so hard on that scene for no reason. And that is it for this video. Happy New Year, everyone, and let's look forward to what 2025 has to offer. See you guys next year.